Welcome to the SafeSimpleSound podcast, where our approach to financial planning creates both and solutions for the contradictions families face every day. I'm speaking with you today drawing from our team's chartered financial consultant background and our deep development of the S3 framework. We are so glad you're here. Whether you are listening on your commute, during your morning walk, or while reviewing your family's finances, our goal is to bring you the steady, reliable wisdom that turns financial noise into clarity. Today, we are continuing a very special series we call The Anatomy of Loss. In our previous episode, we talked about the physical world of risk, the wiring in the walls, the brakes on the car, the tree limb hanging over the roof. We defined the difference between the peril, the bad thing that happens, and the hazard, the condition that allows it to happen. But today, we are pivoting. We are moving from the external world to the internal world. We are exploring a topic we recently wrote about on the SafeSimpleSound blog called the human factor. Here is the core question we want to explore today. What if the most dangerous hazard in your financial life isn't a storm, or a fire, or a car accident? What if the variable that introduces the most risk into your financial plan is you? Now, from a SafeSimpleSound perspective, we want to be very clear. This is not an accusation. This is not about guilt. This is about being human. It is a reality of the human condition that our behavior intersects with our money. In our SafeSimpleSound framework, we know that true security, the safe component of our philosophy, requires looking inward. We must integrate our behavior with our financial plan. If we build a fortress of insurance policies but leave the gate unlocked because we're distracted, the fortress doesn't matter. Today, we are going to simplify two complex concepts that insurance companies have known about for centuries. They sound very similar, but they are distinct: moral hazard and morale hazard. We are also going to look at legal hazards, the invisible liabilities that surround us. Whether you are a business owner trying to protect your legacy or a head of household trying to steward your family's future, this episode will give you the tools to align your behavior with your protection. This aligns with the principle of integration over abandonment. We don't abandon our habits, we integrate them into our safety plan. Let's dive into the human side of risk. Let's begin by establishing our foundation. When we look at risk through the S3 lens, safe, simple, and sound, we are always looking for clarity. The financial industry often uses jargon that makes things feel complicated. Our job is to make them simple. So let's tackle two terms that are often confused: moral hazard and morale hazard. They sound almost identical, but the difference is profound. First, let's look at moral hazard. That's moral without an E at the end. In the insurance world, and drawing from our CFC background at SafeSimpleSound, moral hazard refers to a conscious change in behavior, often involving dishonesty, that increases the risk of loss. When you hear this, you might think of dramatic movie plots, someone burning down a failing business to collect the insurance money. And yes, in the extreme, that is moral hazard. It is fraud. But for the families we serve through our practice, moral hazard is rarely that dramatic. It is much more subtle. It is the little white lie. It's filling out a life insurance application and failing to mention that you smoke a cigar once a month. It's neglecting to tell your auto insurance carrier that your teenager is now the primary driver of the family sedan because you don't want the premium to go up. From a perspective, this creates a conflict. We want to save money, which feels like good stewardship, but we compromise accuracy to do it. Here's the simple truth. Integrity is a safety feature. When we obscure the truth to save a few dollars on premiums, we are actually creating a massive hazard. If the carrier discovers the inaccuracy during a claim, and they often do, they can deny the payout entirely. You might save pennies in the short term, but you risk losing a fortune when you need it most. In the SafeSimpleSound framework, being sound means your plan can withstand scrutiny. A plan built on a half-truth is not sound, it is fragile. Now let's look at the second concept. This is the one that traps far more people. It is called morale hazard. That's morale with an E at the end. Morale hazard isn't about dishonesty, it's about indifference. It is an attitude of carelessness that creeps in because you are insured. It's the subconscious thought process that says, I don't need to double check that the car is locked. If it's stolen, I have full coverage. Or, regarding health, I don't need to worry too much about my diet or exercise right now. I have a great health insurance plan and access to good doctors. Do you see the difference? Moral hazard is a character flaw. Morale hazard is a psychological trap. It is the cost of indifference. This represents a classic either-or mistake that we see so often in financial planning. The mindset is, either I worry about everything constantly, or I buy insurance and stop caring completely. The SafeSimpleSound approach rejects either-or. We embrace both and. This is where the magic of planning happens. S3 thinking is both and. We buy the best insurance protection possible, and we act as if we are uninsured. We drive carefully, even though we have collision coverage. We lock the doors, even though we have theft protection. We install the security system, even though we have a policy. Why do we do this? From a SafeSimpleSound perspective, this provides the stability we look for. It reduces the frequency of loss. Even if you get paid back financially for a stolen car, you still have the stress, the police reports, the rental car hassles, and the violation of your space. Insurance restores the money. It cannot restore the peace of mind that was lost. By acting as if we are uninsured, we keep our lives safe and our premiums low. That is sound financial management. Now, before we move to our deep dive, we have to touch on a third category: legal hazards. These are risks created not by your behavior, but by the regulatory environment and the laws of liability. If you own a swimming pool, the law in many jurisdictions may hold you strictly liable for injuries, even if you put up a fence and did everything right. If you run a business, you face specific liabilities regarding your employees, data privacy, and customer safety. Legal hazards are invisible. You can't see them like a pothole in the driveway. They are written in statutes and court precedents. Legal hazards are often complex, but the solution, drawing from our S3 framework, is usually simple: awareness. You cannot mitigate a risk you don't know exists. So we have moral hazard dishonesty, morale hazard indifference, and legal hazard liability. How do we fix this? We integrate. We don't abandon our insurance policies, nor do we live in paranoia. We align our behavior with our protection. We maintain our property and our health, not just because it saves money, but because it honors the stewardship of our assets. In the next segment, we're going to look at how this plays out in real life. We are going to walk through a hypothetical scenario that shows exactly how these hazards manifest and how a thinker solves them. To illustrate these principles of morale, and legal hazards, let me share a hypothetical scenario that illustrates how these invisible risks can compound. While this story is created for educational purposes, it demonstrates patterns we frequently observe when families apply, or fail to apply, S3 thinking to their risk management. Consider a fictional family, the Harrisons. Tom and Sarah Harrison are in their mid-40s. Tom runs a successful consulting business from home, and Sarah is an architect. They have 2 teenagers and a beautiful home with a pool in the backyard. On paper, the Harrisons look financially secure. They have savings, they have investments, and they have purchased all the standard insurance policies. They feel safe. But let's look closer at their situation through the lens of the hazards we just discussed. First, let's look at morale hazard in the Harrison household. Tom recently upgraded his business insurance to include a robust cyber liability policy. He feels great about this. However, because he knows he has this coverage, he has become lax about his daily digital hygiene. He uses the same password for his bank account that he uses for his fantasy football league. He often works from the local coffee shop on unsecured Wi-Fi without using a VPN. Subconsciously, Tom has fallen into the trap. I have cyber insurance, so if I get hacked, they'll fix it. He has abandoned caution because he has protection. He has chosen either or. Either I have insurance or I have to be careful. He doesn't see that he needs both. Next, let's look at moral hazard. Sarah applied for additional life insurance recently. Years ago, she was treated for mild anxiety. It's well managed, and she rarely thinks about it. However, when the application asks about mental health history, she checks no. She isn't trying to be a criminal. She just thinks, that was years ago, I'm fine now, and I don't want my premiums to double over something minor. It feels like a small omission, a simple simplification. But in the S3 framework, this is a structural crack in the foundation. By prioritizing a lower premium over absolute truth, she has introduced a moral hazard. If, Heaven forbid a claim were to occur, the insurance company could investigate her medical history. If they find the omission, the contestability period could allow them to deny the claim. The safety net she thinks she bought is actually full of holes. Finally, let's look at the legal hazard. The Harrisons have a pool. They also bought a trampoline for the kids. They have a fence, but the gate latch is a bit sticky and doesn't always close all the way. In their state, there is a legal concept called attractive nuisance. Even if a neighborhood child wanders into their yard without permission and gets hurt on the trampoline or in the pool, the Harrisons could be held strictly liable. They have a standard homeowners policy, but they never purchased an umbrella policy to cover excess liability because they thought, we're nice people, we don't get sued. The legal hazard doesn't care if you are nice, it cares about liability statutes. Now, let's pause the story. While the Harrisons are fictional, the risks they face are incredibly common. This example shows patterns we observe when families view insurance as a product they buy, rather than a strategy they integrate. Let's apply the SafeSimpleSound framework to fix the Harrisons situation. How would an S3 family handle this? First, we address the morale hazard with Tom's business. The S3 approach suggests that Tom needs to view his cyber behavior as the first line of defense. The insurance is the backup, not the primary plan. The fix: Tom adopts a both-and mindset. He keeps the insurance and he installs a password manager and uses a VPN. He acts as if he is uninsured. This makes his business genuinely sound. Next, we address the moral hazard with Sarah's application. The principle here is clarity brings safety. The fix: Sarah discloses the anxiety history. Yes, the underwriter might ask for a doctor's note. Yes, the premium might be $20 a month higher. But drawing from our practice's experience, we know that paying a slightly higher premium for a policy that is guaranteed to pay out is infinitely better than paying a low premium for a policy that might fail. Honesty creates a safe foundation that cannot be shaken by an investigation. Finally, the legal hazard. We cannot change the laws regarding swimming pools and trampolines, but we can change our defense. The fix. From a SafeSimpleSound perspective, the Harrisons need to fix the gate latch immediately, behavioral integration, and purchase a personal umbrella policy. This is a very affordable type of coverage that sits on top of your home and auto policies, providing an extra $1 million or more of liability protection. This is a simple solution to a complex legal risk. Through this example, you can see how thinking applies. It's not just about buying a product, it's about aligning your life with your plan. Whether you're facing this exact scenario or something similar, the lesson is the same. The most effective risk management happens when we look in the mirror. When we remove the moral hazard by being rigorously honest, we sleep better. When we remove the morale hazard by remaining vigilant despite our insurance, we prevent accidents from happening in the first place. When we acknowledge legal hazards, we can insulate our wealth against the things we cannot control. This aligns with the principle of stewardship. We are not just owners of our money, we are stewards. And good stewards take care of the assets, regardless of whether they are insured. As we wrap up this episode on the human factor, let's summarize the key insights we've uncovered today. We learned that risk isn't just about the physical world, the wiring, the trees, the cars. Risk is also about us. We distinguished between moral hazard, the danger of dishonesty, and morale hazard, the danger of indifference. We discussed that the solution to morale hazard is the both and. We don't choose between being careful or being insured. We do both. We buy the protection and we act as if we have none. This is the definition of sound planning. We also touched on legal hazards and the importance of awareness. You don't have to be a lawyer to be safe, but you do need to understand where your liabilities lie. If you are listening to this and wondering, how do I know if I have these hazards in my life? We have created resources specifically for you. This episode draws from our recent blog post, The Human Factor, which you can find at SafeSimpleSound.com. Through our S3 framework development, we've created 2 specific tools to help you hold up that mirror. First, we have the Human Factor Shield. This is a self-assessment tool designed to help you spot morale and moral hazards in your daily habits. It asks the questions we often forget to ask ourselves. Second, we have the Financial Fragility Scorecard. This is a broader diagnostic that scores your total resilience across physical, behavioral, and investment domains. You can download both of these for free at SafeSimpleSound.com. Look for the Anatomy of Loss series. If today's S3 insights resonate with your family's situation, and you realize that perhaps your current plan has some behavioral or legal gaps, we invite you to explore what financial planning could look like through our Safe, Simple, Sound practice. But either way, whether you reach out to us or simply apply these principles on your own, you are now equipped with a capability that you didn't have 30 minutes ago. You understand the human factor. You understand that you are the variable, and because of that, you have the power to reduce your risk. You have secured your physical world in part 1. Today, you have aligned your behavior in part 2. Join us for the final episode in this series, part 3, where we will tackle the giant that keeps most people awake at night, the market. We will show you how to apply sound wisdom to build a systematic defense for your wealth against market volatility. Until then, remember, life is complex, but your plan can be safe, simple, and sound.